Thank you. Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President, how are you?
We're on live right now, Mr. Chairman, and with me here, you have a quorum.
With me wouldn't be a Zoom platform if I didn't have bad audio. My apologies to those here. Do I sound good on your end? Am I transmitting okay?
Yes.
All right, let's give this a shot as is. We have quorum. John's all set?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. All right, I'm ready. John, I'm ready when you are.
We're ready, Mr. Chairman. We're on live, so go ahead and start.
Outstanding. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 1st meeting of the Lawrence City Council Personnel Committee meeting. Before we get into the business, I would just ask that everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And as a matter of housekeeping, we have a bit of a reorganization of the City Council after one of our colleagues became the acting mayor. And I'd like to welcome our newest member, Madam Vice President Estella Reyes, as a new member.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be serving a committee with you.
It's good to be with you. I would also notice that we will be joined in the future by Mr. Jorge George Gonzalez, and of course, the district council from District A, Maria Dela Cruz. This evening, we welcome Mr. Bonet, who we will be getting to in just a few moments. Before I go any further, I should read the legal stuff in this COVID world we live in. That this is a virtual meeting pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Lawrence City Council's Personnel Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be given and made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may do so via the Lawrence City Council Facebook page, as well as the Lawrence City Council YouTube page located on our page at the City Hall landing page. With that, another matter of housekeeping, I would ask, there were minutes for August 24th and November 16th. I would ask if there's any motions to pass those.
So move.
Mr. Chairman, I don't feel comfortable seconding that motion because I wasn't part of that meeting. So I would respectfully decline to second that motion.
So, okay,
Mr.
you,
Chairman,
Mr.
if it's any relief to you, you probably could take it up in block at your next personnel committee. I know that other committees sometimes are behind schedule on those or committee minutes. And so you certainly would be in order in the future to, once you get the other members here to ratify those minutes.
sure. Very good. With that, the motion dies and we will leave this for the next personnel meeting. All right. So the first item up this evening will be table item number 1021, permanent city clerk position, put forward to the city council by by Council President LaPlante. Before I turn it over to Council LaPlante, I would note that we have one permanent member of the committee plus Council LaPlante this evening, as well as we're joined by Personnel Director, Mr. Bonet. With that, why don't I turn it over to you, Mr. LaPlante, and just tell us about your item since you're with us.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This was referred down to your committee, the Personnel Committee. This is an absolutely critical position in our city, and that is to find a high caliber city clerk to essentially replace the departure of Mr. Maloney, who left, I think, approaching now 2 months ago. And it's just absolutely critical. I know that the process has begun, and I just use my position to try to get this down to the committee. I am eager and anxious to look forward to seeing the committee's work and the review after whatever the process is that you find to be advantageous. And I look forward to seeing what the recommendation of this committee is at the full council level and having a robust discussion and hopefully find someone who's a good fit.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do any of the councilors have questions of the president regarding this item?
I do.
Very good. Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Council President, so is anything different that you are looking on this permanent position, the current job description that we already have in place?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, no, I think that the committee on the whole and thereby the whole city council put a lot of work and effort into cultivating a job description and we really worked hard to try to put a little bit of teeth on or put a little meat on the bones, if you will, on the job description and what we're looking for. So I think the work regarding what we're looking for has already been done. Now it's a matter of us trying to match the individual qualifications through paper, maybe through interviews or however this committee decides to go ahead and go forward with it, and then sending it up to the full council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. With no further questions, I would turn it over to Mr. Bonet. At the request of the City Council, Mr. Bonet was asked to be present this evening. If I recall, the council had asked that we entertain up to 5 potential interviews at this committee level. I had a very good conversation with Mr. Bonet last week, and I would like him to join us at this time and tell us his thoughts on how best to proceed with the resumes that we have in hand.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interrupt for a moment, I noticed, oh, that's you. I just noticed somebody else came on the line and that was you. Never mind. I thought it may have been another colleague of ours. Never mind. So that's you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me tonight. I'd like to first maybe start off with providing an update on the staffing levels from the city clerk's office. As I had discussed with Councilor Abdul last week and briefly with Councilor LaPlante a couple of weeks ago about the proposal that we made to Mayor Vasquez about the changes in staffing for the meantime until we can get a clerk. So last week on Thursday, last week Wednesday, we made official with documents, Damaris as acting city clerk. We filed that in the city clerk's office. And on Thursday, we made official 2 individuals acting assistant city clerks. One to fill in the spot an acting level that used to belong to Richard prior to he becoming the acting city clerk. And the other position is Damaris Ruiz's position while she works as city clerk. Her assistant city clerk position duties are vacant. So what we ended up doing is downstairs at the elections department, we moved Danny Tavares, who is the principal account clerk, the highest grade clerical staff, into an assistant city clerk position, acting. And he's been doing that job basically since December 1st, but we officially filed the appropriate paperwork in accordance with the charter 4.4. And then also we made Jennifer Jimenez acting assistant city clerk upstairs at the city clerk's office. With that, of course, you have some positions now that became vacant because of these acting statuses. So we ended up calling several temporary employees in. One temporary employee is working at the elections department is Jennifer Pagan. Jennifer Pagan was working with the city election department during the elections last year. So she knows everything that there is downstairs, and that's great because she can hit the floor running. She started today downstairs at the elections department. As well as the city clerk, we had 2 individuals that started as temp workers at the city clerks. They started today as well. When I went downstairs to make sure everything was okay, Damaris and her crew was just started to train individuals on everything that they do, death certificate, birth certificate, and so forth. So for the meantime, officially, all the positions are filled either with acting or temporary employees as the budget is fixed. Mayor and I met on Wednesday last week, and he is planning probably to make some permanent shifts and permanent movement as part of those vacancies that occur. But he's going to wait, as Councilor President LaPlante has indicated, for city clerk to come on board, so that way the city clerk can be part of the interviewing process and the selection process as well. Now, that's the staffing level. If nobody has a question on that, I can go into the process of the city clerk. Well, as you know, I sent down to the full council 11 names. We actually, the last time that the council met to discuss this subject, it was requested that my office send down 6 names. I think that was the number 6. Under the administrative code, the personnel department has to certify 5 individuals, the top 5, for interviews. When I certified, I found that there were 6 additional people tied with 5th place. So ended up sending 11 names down to the personnel committee. That 5th place is tied with 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th place. Okay, so you have 11 people. They're all scored a 6, and so I couldn't break it down further. With that said, I talked to Councilor Abdul last week about the intentions of probably providing 2 recommendations to the personnel committee. If we do interview 11 candidates, the personnel committee is going to have some long nights for a couple of weeks. And that is because first, we have to get 11 candidates on particular nights to interview. We have to get the personnel committee to agree on certain dates to interview, and then there may be additional interviewing for finalists. That would take a long time, at least 2 or 3 weeks. My other recommendation was to have a smaller subcommittee, and we've done this in the past, where we select 2 city councilors from the personnel committee, include the personnel director, and possibly someone else. I recommend that maybe we can approach former city clerk, Bill Maloney, to be part of the interviewing committee because he has the knowledge and the know-how and the skills to about this position, that maybe he can ask those better questions than we can. Create a subcommittee, do an interview of these 11 individuals, and then send down to the personnel committee 3 finalists. And so that we can interview those 3 finalists in one night with the personnel committee. If the personnel committee sees that there is, takes a vote to send a name down to council, or send all 2 names or 3 names, however the personnel committee may want to, then that's fine. It goes to council. Maybe they'll want to do an interview, or maybe they'll just take the personnel committee's recommendation. However, if no one is selected, if there's no candidate that the personnel committee thinks is worthy of having the position or qualified, or is not the right fit, we can start the whole process again. Last time I spoke to the full council, we had 169 candidates. And so out of those 169, we sent 11 down. As of today, that count has risen to 295. I have not sent anything down to council president or to the council because we're working on this one particular first pass. Now, not out of those 295, I would say more than 10% are qualified, because most people believe, as I had mentioned at my last council meeting, most people think that the city clerk position is a clerical position. They see clerk and they think it's something like an administrative assistant or a confidential secretary of some sort, not knowing that it's a departmental manager with, knowing some knowledges of legal, some government work, how to create ordinances, rules, laws, and things like that. So out of this batch that I sent, we do have someone with a Juris Doctorate, we have someone with a PhD, we have a few people with master's degree, we have an individual who was a city clerk and town clerk down in the state of Florida who has applied. We have some other minority candidates with degrees, and they work in other government entities like the state government departments that know a little bit how government works or intergovernment works. And I think they would, maybe they don't know all about city clerk jobs, but they would certainly know how to read regulations, how to process things, and how to, keep a department in order, lead and manage as well. So those two recommendations. The first is create a subcommittee, do pre-interviews, send 3 names down to the personnel committee for a one-night interview, or create interview dates for 11 candidates for the personnel committee. I leave it to the personnel committee to decide.
Thank you, Mr. Bonet. Are there questions of Mr. Bonet with respect to anything he said, or more specifically, the 2 options?
No, I don't have a question for Mr. Bonet, but I do have a question for you, Mr. Chair.
Please, go ahead.
I like the last option, which I believe is the last, just to have a prior interview and send 3 names down. But I will go by your recommendation if you wish to do that way. I wouldn't mind to be part of those prior interview. It can be days. And if it's going to be days, I just want to be told in advance.
So first of all, thank you for your comments, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and I appreciate your leadership and offering to step up and do that, participate in that group. I was individually inclined to go in this direction, when Mr. Bonet and I talked about it last week, but I felt it was important to bring that conversation to this group and let it happen in the open, and get everyone's on the committee's opinion and support for the idea. So with that, we've been joined. I want to note, I mentioned it earlier, we've been joined by Councilor Dela Cruz. Councilor Dela Cruz, good evening. Did you have questions?
Yes, good evening. Sorry for it. I've been trying to log in and it has been a little difficult. my question will be, if we create the smaller subcommittee, and then as personnel committee, we get, let's say, the last 4, the last 3 that the smaller community will decide, how long it's going to take to get the city clerk? Because I can imagine you have, like you mentioned before, Mr. Bonet, you have 295 candidates who have sent resume. Then going down to the list with the smallest subcommittee, I think we can narrow that down as much as possible, that when they come to the personnel committee, that we don't more than 3 or 4 individuals, because otherwise it's going to take a long time to choose the city clerk.
So I can start, I'm sorry. I was gonna say,
Please.
I can start if the committee tonight makes a decision to move forward. It doesn't matter which of the 2 options. I'm willing and ready to begin tomorrow calling and creating those interviews, dates and times. And I believe that if you do a second option, the smaller subcommittee, we can do dates and nights. Dates and or nights. It doesn't have to be all day. It doesn't have to be all nights. It could be a combination of 2, and we could do it all in a week. What happens is when you have a subcommittee that is not 3 or more elected officials, there's no need to start doing, the 48-hour notice to the public and all that. So you could basically do interviews, Thursday, Friday, and into Monday, and then narrow it down to 3. And I think it'll cut about 3 weeks off of the longer version.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Dela Cruz, do you have any other questions regarding the options or what Mr. Bonet has recommended?
No, I don't have more questions. Thank you, Council Chair.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, Mr. Bonet, it sounds like we, I don't know if we need a motion, but I'll do that in a bit. I'll entertain a motion in a bit, but it sounds like we're coalescing around a smaller group to work with you and possibly 1 or 2 other individuals to, if you will, screen it and cull it down to a more workable number. Is this something you can help us organize, Mr. Bonet?
Oh yeah, we do it. We'll do everything from the office upstairs. Your job as personnel committee is just to wait for the subcommittee to send you the 3 names, and then each member of that of the personnel committee, when they receive the names, will receive packets with all of those individuals. Will receive notes and recommendations of the subcommittee on why an individual has been sent to you for consideration, and in order to cut down the process by 1 additional meeting, we can even schedule Zoom interviews for those 3 individuals on the very same day that the subcommittee sends down. It's all up to the personnel committee how they want to do that. Some of the questions that I would have is, I'm not sure if you want to do it after the motion or part of the motion is which members of the personnel committee will be in the subcommittee, and would you want me to contact Mr. Maloney to see if he would like to volunteer his services for this?
So, yeah, I as 1 individual, and again, we can put this up for motion shortly. I would be supportive of inviting Mr. Maloney to participate. I think his expertise in 20 plus years of involvement would be great. And if not him, possibly the city attorney or Ms. Burnell, who's filling in right now. All of them have some unique experience and vantage point, but that would be great if you could reach out to Mr. Maloney.
I make a motion to pick Mr. Maloney, please.
So,
Part of the motion, right?
yeah, so Councilor Dela Cruz, what we want to do, so right now it's only a discussion. We probably would want to formalize it in the form of a motion that would recommend a subcommittee of this committee. And then further, I don't like saying further direct Mr. Bonet, but direct the Office of Personnel to reach out to Mr. Maloney and invite him to participate.
Yes, that sounds really good.
And he's not available, I'll go down in order to City Attorney and then Director Bernal.
That sounds good. Are there any other, did I miss any? Are there any other recommendations that other members would make?
No, I mean, that sounds great to me. So the three
Very good.
individuals,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I say the three individuals that we just has mentioned it, Mr. Maloney, the city attorney, and former Councilor Bernard. I think that can be the three.
Yes, as long as we don't exceed. So, and again, I want to leave Mr. Bonet some room to move here. So it would be the two counselors from this committee. Therefore, we satisfy the open meeting law, no more than two counselors, plus Mr. Bonet and hopefully Mr. Maloney plus a fifth, so that there's a odd number, preferably a fifth.
Then I have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilor Watu. Then we're talking about two councilors, Mr. Maloney, the city attorney,
And Frank Bonet.
Frank Bonet, and Director Bernard. Right?
That would be that might be too many, but some small subset of that. Depending on how things go, Mr. Maloney, then you could go to Ms. Brunel or Attorney Ruano.
Yeah, we can leave. We can leave Ruano and Bernard as if attorney can't, if one can't make it, the other one can jump in. But 5 would be a good tiebreaker. Because what we're not going to do, what I recommend not doing this time around is using scores. As last time that we were doing the city attorneys, it got a little bit difficult. I think maybe a vote of the subcommittee to send down 3 names to the personnel committee, and we can make those votes by name. That way, the personnel committee can also vote by motion on sending those names and not having to do scores. The scores will take a longer and detailed more time. So having 5 individuals, that 5th individual can work as a tiebreaker.
That sounds,
There are members. Go ahead, Councilor Dela Cruz. Go ahead.
yes, it sounds really good. Fine, it's a good number to do the interview.
Councilor Reyes, how do you feel about that? Do you have any
Oh,
concerns or questions?
Yeah, no question. Only that if Councilor De La Cruz, since she has been serving longer than me in personal committee, I volunteer to be part of the interview, but if she wants to be part of, I think Councilor Chair might want to be present.
I would defer. So thank you. Thank you. Already contributing. Newest member already contributing. I love it. I would defer to Councilor Dela Cruz. One of the things I don't want to do is I would not individually want to be a choke point. I wouldn't want to be a hurdle. And days would be difficult for me, but it sounds like days could possibly work for each of you two counselors, and of course, Mr. Bonet. It may create a faster, more expeditious process if you two would be agreeable to doing it. If not, I go ahead.
Yes, I will.
Very
I will.
good. So we should probably formalize all this into a form of a motion to appoint a subgroup of this committee, requesting Mr. Bonet's support as discussed, and to reach out to Mr. Maloney.
Motion to do everything you said, Mr. Abdu.
There's a motion to create a subgroup of the Personnel Committee to not be greater than 2 counselors. And let the record show that Councilor Reyes and Councilor Dela Cruz have volunteered Mr. Bonet and 2 members to be determined by Mr. Bonet and the group. And for the motion further goes on to request that Mr. Bonet reach out to Mr. Maloney, asking him to join that group.
So move.
There's a motion and a second. I would ask for a roll call vote. Yes, a roll call vote. Mr. Garcia, please.
Counselor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Counselor Stella Reyes,
Yes.
and Counselor Abdul.
The chair votes yes. I would note for those at home, I do not believe that Councilor Plant is still here. As our president, he helped us kick this meeting off, and he has since left. So the chair votes yes for a 3-0 positive vote. And with that, is there any further discussion on this matter? And Mr. Bonet, do you need anything from us? Do you need anything from us at this point?
No,
Because we
tomorrow,
would not meet again. We wouldn't meet again theoretically for another 2 weeks.
correct. So I'll reach out tomorrow morning to Madam Vice President and Councilor De La Cruz. And I will reach out also to Maloney in the City Attorney's Office, and just to get details and work out dates, times, Zoom meetings, and all that.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, all right. If there are no further questions, we should probably put item 1021 back on the table, or I would entertain any other motion.
Motion to table the matter.
Second.
Councilor Dela Cruz has made a motion to table the matter. Let the record show that Councilor Reyes seconded it. There's no discussion on a table, motion to table. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And I would call for a roll call vote, Mr. Garcia.
Counselor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Counselor Stella Reyes,
Yes.
and Counselor Abdul.
Yes. So that item is back on the table. Are there any other questions or concerns or motions?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion to adjourn. There is a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Mr. Garcia, if you would, roll call vote, please.
Counselor De La Cruz,
Yes.
Counselor Stella Reyes,
Yes.
and Counselor Abdul.
Yes, the chair votes yes. The motion passes. This committee stands in adjournment. And again, I want to thank Mr. Bonet this evening for your help and guidance going forward. And thank Mr. Garcia for your support this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.